Peace, my family. How y'all doing out there today? I hope you guys are out there keeping your mind right and that good mind. And I want to send you guys that good healing energy your way. I came on here today to share another clip from Dr. Malachi York's book called Is There Eternal Life After Death? And this question is it possible to visualize the lowest subplanes question? And this is Dr. Malachi York's answer. In order to visualize the lower subplanes of the spiritual world, you must maintain a positive mental state, which will allow you to act as a barrier through which these influences cannot penetrate. Let me remind that back. In order to visualize the lower subplanes of the spiritual world, you must maintain a positive mental state, which will allow you to act as a barrier through which these influences cannot penetrate. Your first impressions are not the material world. Your first impressions are not the material world. It's still around you with all its scenery plainly visible. As you look, you will find that there seems to be a particular veil between those senses and the plane above, which you are temporarily dwelling. This veil, through transparent, seems to have a particular appearance of resistant solidity as you realize that, or solidity, as you realize that a barrier to the passage into the mental plane. Now let us change our vibration to those of a very unpleasant subplane called the spiritual chemistry. Stay on this subplane only for a moment, for the ghastly appearance of its surroundings are most depressing. From all sides, you'll see deteriorating forms of human beings and some animals. They seem to be floating in space, seeming real yet somewhat unreal. These are not physical bodies, but their close resemblance to the same makes you feel really or very uneasy. These deteriorating spiritual forms are spiritual shells. Just as the physical body has a corpus, so does the spiritual body, and moves on to higher planes of the spiritual being. The shell is left until it deteriorates and disappears. The time an individual spirit shell remains on this plane depends highly on the desires of the person of highly or high spirituality and good heart. With good idols, he will fade away into higher realms very rapidly. Its atoms having little or no cohesive of attraction to the lower physical world, but on the other hand, the spiritual shell of the individual with love and desire for the physical world and all it offers will hold together a long time and be bound to this plane. These spiritual shells are held together a long time, and these spiritual shells are dead and have no consciousness or intelligence, as do specters or shades, which we all, or which we will take a look at right away. What are specters? According to the American Heritage Dictionary, specters are ghostly, haunting, disturbing images instead of floating around in spiritual space, as do the shell. Specters act as a shadow human beings in dazed or dreamlike states. They walk about without any goal or purpose, a weird, unpleasant sight. These specters are spiritual shells from which the soul has departed, but which have left in them sufficient repose. This allows them a temporary resemblance of life and action. The shell of an individual who cherishes the world will have strong material thoughts and desires. Thus, these lower mental vibrations may persist in the desert spiritual form and render the shell of an etheric ability to move about this activity. Though counterfeit, many manifests itself in a considerable amount of time, even when this counterpart power is used up psychotic stimuli from the individual still living on the material plane spark the movement in the spiritual self. Through the psychic power generated in the seedness and mediums persons on the physical plane, the strong mental attraction or the spectral shell may be activated. The attractions between the two may be so strong that the spectral shell may manifest itself completely or partially through the physical organism and present. In some cases, the vibration of the old memories will survive in the spectral form and will go to past experiences on earth. To the careful observer, they will be a shadow of unreality. Moreover, this spectral being can borrow ideas and impressions from the minds of the mediums or persons in the circle and add them to their own shadow memories, thus doubling and counterfeiting thoughts. We are now entering a very wonderful subplane, or a subdivision of that plane. This subplane is on the entrance of another subplane, which is strictly guarded by very high spiritual influences. It is a sacred place and it is impossible to enter these vibrations unless you are high spiritual qualifications. Unless you are of high spiritual qualifications. This plane has been compared to the cocoon state of the butterfly, for it is the resting place of disembodied souls for some time after they have left the physical body. In this plane, the spirits dwell in peaceful slumber until nature does her part in preparing the soul for the new and higher plane. Enter this plane with reverence and love, for you will see disembodied souls resting in a dreamless state, and they are not dead, but sleeping and awaiting their transformations. They seem to be in a state of infinite calmness and peace. If you are spiritually developed yourself, if you are spiritually developed yourself, you may feel the presence of a greater spiritual entities which guard this room. They are Etherans who protect the slumber of the souls that rest therein. If you watch carefully, you'll see slight movements indicating the awakening of some of the resting forms. A moment and the forms disappear. The vibrations have changed and the soul has moved into another subplane to begin its real life after death. All souls, however, high or low, eventually move off the spiritual and enter into the state of the mental plane, or regain in the heavens whoever they left behind. Their spiritual selves on the heaven planes, the souls speed much time. The souls spend so much time enjoying the well-earned bliss. Souls, the Lord, in development spend less time in the higher regions because their love for the world. These spiritual forms are most repulsive and almost beast-like in appearance. Rather than human, there are still lower forms on the subdivisions below. The creatures therein are sub-spiritual bodies awakening from their brief spiritual sleep to find themselves in what they call hell. Look on further into the envelope fog, and you will see the material world is a sort of a background, and it appears detached, but to the poor souls in hell, only the lowest of earthly activity can be seen, and the higher spiritual activities are blotted out to them. To these poor souls, there is no earth except these scenes, which are filled with their own desires that only lead to suffering. This is the hell for them. They cannot participate. They can exercise only the lust of the eye, which is but a thorn in the flesh at all sides. They see their friends eating, drinking, gambling, engaging in all forms of brutality. Meanwhile, as they eagerly clished around these sceneries, they cannot participate. They lack of a physical body is their barrier. So the souls in hell may be able to find an old earthly companion saturated with liquor as well as with drugs, and mindless desire for physical ecstasy continues to grow with each memorable occurrence. However, in due time, the desire reaches a climax and starts to reverse. And with that reversal comes rehabilitation of the soul to a rebirth. And the soul that once was open to evil influences and desires has now been given a chance to rise up in the spiritual scale. And this is the burning out of desire for the world. Even the lowest of the souls rise in time. And in these hells of the spiritual, the degradation or degraded souls are punished not for their sins, but by their sins. Refer to what and where is hell? Question by Dr. Malachi Z. This is all on Scribe. In the majority of cases, the dying person sinks into a slumber of death and wakens after a period of transformation. In some cases, however, there is a brief awakening, like a semi-awakening from a dream shortly after departure from the spiritual body. In this instance, the spiritual body may appear visible to a friend or loved one, and the spirit soon becomes drowsy and sinks into a preliminary sleep of the spiritual plane. The highly spiritual person, needing little preparation to move on to the higher spiritual planes, may slumber here only a very short period of time. If highly spiritual developed, the soul may even omit these higher planes and be taken into the higher realms, which are regions of the mental planes and higher. The lower material soul awakens speedily because it is not destined for the high spiritual planes. They descend to low spiritual sceneries until the soul becomes sickened and is ready for further transformation. So I'm just going to stop right there because that is the end of his answer. So I'm going to tell y'all this is real and let y'all know it's all love, my family, and